Chris, we can say we're here.
Hold on.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. There it is. I see where it is. Right here.
We back in action, baby.
We back right here.
We here.
Chris, I need you to put the word out. Tell the people that we're back up.
We here.
That we're back up.
We here.
We're here. Here's the win column, folks.
Here. Hey, North Carolina Dallas Cowboys fans.
Where y'all at?
We're both 1-2.
Let's get this sucker started.
Get dialed in, Panthers fans. Here comes an in-depth look at your team. Exclusive interviews. Locker room insight. Ready? Let's huddle up.
Let's just do it, okay?
For Panthers Playbook, driven by Carolina Ford Dealers. Here are your hosts, Dennis Cox and Chris Lea.
Welcome back to another episode of Panthers Playbook. That's Chris Lea, Dennis Cox here with you. Sponsored by good friends over at Carolina Ford Dealers. With a Ford F-150 on your team, it's game on. See your Carolina Ford dealer today. I'm not going to lie, Andy Dalton. Hello.
Bro. Bro.
First quarterback this season to throw for 300-plus yards and 3 touchdowns in a game is Andy Dalton. We know what the offense, Chris, I'm just going to say it. Now we know what the offense is supposed to look like. That's what the offense is supposed to look like.
Listen,
my
man.
Goodness.
Listen, man. The first drive, and they end up scoring that touchdown, and it's the first time in 20 games where that they've had an opening drive touchdown.
Yep.
Or scored on an opening drive. I was like, man, this is kind of what that third preseason game looked like against the Bills.
It's funny.
Like, okay, let's see if they could potentially follow this up. And boy, did they ever follow this up, man. And
Goodness.
like, and some of those throws, it's not even just the fact that they scored a lot. If you look at some of the throws that Andy Dalton made in there, like those are throws that Bryce wouldn't have thrown.
Wouldn't even attempted.
He wouldn't have attempted it. Like the first, not the Chuba Hubbard touchdown, but the next 2 touchdown passes after that. Like those are throws where you're literally throwing somebody open. If you go back and just look at the tape and look at the coverage, especially from the quarterback standpoint, like you got to place that in the right spot. It has to be right there in order for the wide receiver to get that. Bryce Young, either if he would have attempted it, would have gotten picked, or he just would not have attempted it and he would have gotten sacked. And it was a complete difference. And that's why I was saying there's somebody who was in the comments last week.
Just leave your comments.
Yeah, leave your comments. In the comments last week saying like, hey, Adam Thielen said it wasn't Bryce. Why are you guys saying it's Bryce? Because it was Bryce. And I didn't believe Adam Thielen. I was standing right there next to him. And when the question was asked to him, he sat, took a breath, then answered. That lets me know that you have to think about what you have to say before you say it.
I'm going to say the right thing.
Let me say the right thing. Not the true thing. Let me say the right thing. There's a difference. And I'm not trying to pound on Bryce. But keep pounding. But Andy Dalton just looked great. I don't know if he can keep this up for an entire season, but right now he's the Carolina Panthers QB1.
Yeah, and it goes to show. It's funny, the last 2 300-yard games for the Panthers have been Andy Dalton. Ironically, in week 3, just like it was last year. It's the difference in the game to me. A couple things. One, they were picking up third downs.
Yes.
The fact that they were picking up third downs, because in the first 2 games, there were 2 of 22. And all of a sudden they pick up, like, was it 3 on the opening drive alone? Like they were 5 of 12 overall today. I know a couple of them weren't picked up kind of late, running the ball, didn't pick up, a third down on a couple last, few drives of the game, but they picked up 5 of their first 9, if I remember correctly. It just, Bryce threw for 245 yards in 2 games. And he throws for 319 today and 3 touchdowns. And you mentioned about placing the ball.
Was it 245?
Yeah, 245. Bryce did in the first 2 games. 245. Okay. Yeah.
That sounds kind of high.
I mean, that's a good game, but over 2, not so great. But Dalton throws 319 today. And like you mentioned, putting the ball in the right spot, like the Diontae Johnson one in the end zone was money. And then the Adam Thielen throw, I hope he's okay. I know he left the game, didn't come back with that hamstring injury, but You cannot have thrown that ball any more perfect. You cannot have thrown that ball any more perfect.
Here's another thing. They scored in every quarter. They hadn't scored in the fourth quarter this year. And if they would have had 3 more points, they would have tripled what they've scored in the first 2 games alone.
Yo.
Bruh.
Yeah.
So, like, let's get back to those off-season conversations. Like, are we a quarterback away?
Are we?
I'm not serious, but I'm serious.
Yeah.
But I'm not serious, but I'm serious.
Think about it.
You know?
Think about it.
And you know, I don't think that this team with Andy Dalton is just going to go out here and make the playoffs. I'm not going to go out there and jump out the window like that. But like just what we saw today, and again, the Raiders aren't a very good team. They did beat Baltimore for what it's worth. But
who's 1-2, by the way?
Yeah, they smacked the Cowboys
they did
today. But this shows you what this offense can be. And seeing Xavier Legette have a decent game. Adam Thielen, we knew what he was going to do. Hopefully he's okay. Diontae Johnson having a game that we expected from Bryce Young. And then also like using your tight ends. And then Chuba Hubbard. My man had over 150 yards from scrimmage. He had a Christian McCaffrey game.
Chuba had a day.
He had a Christian McCaffrey game.
169 yards. Nice day.
Nice.
Total. Really nice. And a tutty to go with it. I'm like, he used it like he picked up some big yards. Like one of his longest runs came late in the game where you're just trying to pick up first downs. It was just overall you could not have asked for anything better. Which, by the way, a couple things. First time the Carolina Panthers have led in the fourth quarter since the 2022 season. Both their wins last year came on last-second field goals as the clock expired. So firstly, in the fourth quarter since 2022. First, by the way, Dave Canales, first win. Congratulations as a head coach. Also the first Panthers coach to win on the road since Steve Wilkes. Like, think about that. Like, that's where we've been.
And it was against Andy Dalton leading the Saints.
So Andy Dalton has been part of the last 2 road wins for the Carolina Panthers.
Shout out to Andy Dalton.
Gosh, it all comes full circle. But we're giving a ton of praise to the offense today. I know they gave up a late touchdown that made it made it to 22 points for the Raiders, but the defense overall was good.
Listen,
the defense overall today was good with obviously no Derrick Brown, but no Shy Tuttle as well. Yes. Jordan Fuller got hurt during the game. But man, the defense outside of like that big, 56-yard play?
54-yard play to Tucker.
Yeah.
Or was it Tucker?
I don't think it was Tucker. I forget who it was off the top of my head. It was Trey Tucker. It was 54 yards to Trey Tucker. Like outside of like that big play, like they gave up that 97-yard drive. Overall, the defense was good. And like, they got a garbage time touchdown, did the Raiders? Fine, whatever it is. But overall, the defense was good. Again, with no Derrick Brown, no Shy Tuttle, the Raiders had trouble moving the ball. They only gave up 55 yards on the ground today. That's it. 55 yards on the ground today.
It really looked like the Panthers were playing the Panthers. So, like, here's the thing, man. Like, take away the 15 points that the Raiders scored in the fourth quarter. That's just like we're sitting back. We're letting everything come underneath. Like, we're not going to let you guys, do much or whatever. And we're just trying to kill the clock so we can get out of here because we got the win in the bag. Take all that away. Literally, I'm not worried about any of that. Just the 54-yard reception for Trey Tucker is the only bad thing I saw on defense. That's the way that you want your defense to play. They stopped the run. Like, you forgot that Davante Adams, the Davante Adams plays for the Raiders because he was virtually just non-existent. I mean, if he had a better quarterback, it probably would have been different. But he was virtually non-existent in this game. And it was good. It was, for the most part, there was a few missed tackles, but I think you're still going to see a little bit of that since it's early in the season. Guys still trying to find that groove. But other than that, man, hats off to the defense. And that's why, like, I don't want to put all of this on Andy Dalton. And that's not to take away from Andy Dalton at all.
He was awesome.
But the defense did not play this good in the first 2 weeks. But what we've noticed, though, is the defense has gotten better every week, which is the thing that we wanted to see. Last week, a lot of the big points that the Chargers scored were because of the turnovers for the Panthers, right? The turnover for the Panthers. And I think that, of course, they looked a little bit better last week, even though it wasn't very good. This is the defense this week that I wanted to see. And hey, like, hats off to everybody. It's weird being in this position, Dennis, to not have all these things to nitpick.
Yeah. It is quite interesting. One thing I thought was how comfortable it must have been for the defense to go out there with the lead.
The entire game.
Like the whole game. Like there's a point where it was 7-7.
They were never down.
Yeah, they're never down. They never stepped on the field where they were down. Like that's the thing about this game. They weren't down. I think the only time they held a lead, like I think in a game last season was very rare. It was very rare that they actually had a lead.
Oh, yeah. They did have a brief lead. Yeah.
Like they had like a brief lead in like a couple games and stuff like that. But otherwise, like the defense is either playing from behind or the score was somewhere around tied. Like that's where they were for the most part of all last season. And obviously this whole season, they've been nothing but trailing. Now there's been some defensive lapses even early in games that we saw in the last two games. Okay, that's, it is what it is. But I'm sure the defense, the first time they step on the field, they're like, oh, it's like, wait, we're up 7-0. Like that's got to be refreshing and rejuvenating for you, like on defense. It's like, yo, we got a lead, and then sure enough, guess what? They're playing with a pretty substantial lead. You get 3 sacks today. You get 6 hits on the quarterback. You knock down 7 passes. I mean, Mike Jackson broke up 3 passes and had a pick today. It's got to be comforting for those guys knowing that going on the field. It's like, oh, like we can take a chance here because. Okay, if we get beat, that's fine. Like we still have a 14-point lead. Like I can take a little bit of a risk. I don't have to play conservative.
Yeah. It's shout outs to Dave Canales. And, we have been kind of apprehensive to, pile a lot on him the first 2 weeks. If you look at Panthers Twitter, there's some folks who are just like, we got to ship him out too. First off, that's just going to be bad for business. Even if the Panthers went 0-17 this year, you got to give him a second year, just simply based off the fact that you fired a coach the last 2 seasons, and you don't want to be that franchise, David Tepper, that nobody wants to come to, because of that. You're never going to be able to lure Ben Johnson in, the guy that you really wanted. You'll never be able to lure other big time head coaches that can come in. You're only going to be able to get like startups like Dave Canales. So this was you're going to have to give Canales more than just this season. And he definitely stepped up. The team looked a lot more prepared this week. Yeah. And you can see the improvement from him. You can see the improvement from the running game. Again, different teams, right? Because I think that the Saints probably have the best run defense of any of the teams that they faced. So we saw that. So now what are you going to do against the better teams? When you face the Bengals this coming week, when you face the Chiefs later on in the season. Yep. I was going to say the Cowboys, but I'm not sure who the Cowboys are.
They don't know who they are
on paper, Cowboys should be pretty good. When you face Atlanta, later on this year, what are you guys going to do against some of those top or better teams in the NFL? You're going to have the Saints again at home. Now, how do you take this and build on it? And this is all good tape for the Panthers.
Atlanta's lost a game. Saints lost today. Bucks lost today. Panthers are 1 game out of first. I know they have a loss to the Saints. I know.
So
but they won game. But they're only 1 game out, Chris. They're only 1 game out.
So there's a chance.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
There's a chance.
Yeah. So I take that away from today as well. But I think the biggest thing, one of the big things for me after this game is there's, like you mentioned it earlier, zero question about who your number 1 quarterback is. Zero question. It's not even like a thought of like, well, if Dalton struggles, do you put zero questions now going forward? Zero. None.
He's the guy.
And it's amazing how, like, watching plays, like especially when they're showing replays, you can kind of see all 22 and all stuff. I'm like, oh, this is the exact same. This is the same stuff that Canales was calling. like in the first 2 games. Like it's the same stuff. Like
nothing different.
Literally the change of quarterback.
Yeah.
Literally a change of quarterback was the difference.
So here's the thing then, Dennis. Because now there's questions. There's still questions because of how well Andy Dalton played. Of course, he has an expiring contract. Teams, according to reports, have been inquiring if they could trade for Bryce Young.
Yep.
What happens to Bryce Young after this season? Are the Panthers going to trade him? Do they decide to come back to him? Do you have to sign Andy Dalton to a 1-year deal to try to get Bryce to come along? Are you looking to bring in another quarterback? Like, those are things. I don't know how I feel on any of that right now, just to be real. But those are things that we have to think about.
You know, I did see today that Skylar Thompson, the backup quarterback for the Dolphins, who's filling in for Tua, who's on IR because of the concussion. Skylar Thompson left today's game with a chest injury, didn't return. And there's always rumors of like, hey, what about Bryce and Mike McDaniel's system down there in Miami? I'm like, hey, you know, if a team really gets desperate, there's been multiple reports, whether it's from Adam Schefter of ESPN, Joe Person of The Athletic, saying teams have contacted the Panthers about Bryce Young. You have to listen. You have to listen. Doesn't mean you have to accept. Doesn't mean you have to actually make a move, but you have to listen. Simple.
Can you get it first?
Oh, God. If someone offers you first for Bryce right now, be like, I will take you. Like, hey, you know what? I will accept it, and I'll accept this trade, and I'll buy you a steak dinner while doing it.
What do you think is the right compensation for him?
Honestly, I see a team probably would give up a 4th. Is my guess. Maybe a 3rd. Maybe a 3rd. I think when Josh Rosen got benched by the Cardinals after a year, and they shipped him away, they got like a 2nd and like a 3rd, I think, for him. For Josh Rosen. And it was, ironically, I think it was the Dolphins that did it.
Yeah, you're right.
That was Josh Rosen.
They got
who's
a 2nd
and
pick. A 3rd?
Yeah, I think he was the 10th pick in the draft. So I don't know.
You could
honestly,
probably
I
get
could see
more than a 2nd and a 3rd then for Bryce.
Yeah, but I don't know. This game might also be further proof, like, oh, it was Bryce. That was the problem. Especially the way, like, wait, hold on. Andy Dalton balled out and Bryce stunk. I don't know. Maybe that drove his trade value down, Chris. Maybe Dalton balling like that drove his trade value down.
But Bryce was a number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, I mean, look, it wasn't good last year, but you really can't blame last year on him.
Sure.
We basically have 2 like really bad games for
awful
Bryce.
Games.
2 really bad games for Bryce.
Awful
so
games.
Like, I don't know. Maybe that's what Dan Morgan says to people, like, hey, you can't really hold last year against them. If you really want him, we're going to need more than just a 4th round pick for Bryce Young. Number 1 overall pick, Heisman Trophy winner, Bryce Young. Like, you know, I think it's got to be more than a 4th.
I don't know, but until then, I'm just going to
get our 2nd back. We got to get our 2nd back.
Well, they did, remember? In the 2nd round with they traded down. So yeah, they did get a 2nd round.
Let's get another 2nd back.
Let's get another 2nd. Let's get another one.
I mean, hell, if you really want to give us a 1st, we'll take it.
I mean, I ain't gonna say no to it.
You know,
I ain't gonna say no.
Give us a 1st and a 6th.
But you know, either way, Chris, I'm just gonna soak up this win, and I'm just gonna hope I don't wake up. I'm just gonna hope I don't. Pounding.
Keep
pounding.
Keep
pounding.
Bro, we are so here.
We're right here. We are so right here in the win column, Chris. Right here in the win column.
See, the losing column is over there. This is the win column right here.
We're here. Leave your thoughts in the comments
30
section.
Right there. Shout outs to number 30, Chuba Hubbard.
That's right. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, folks. Remember, Carolina Ford Dealers, your sponsor here at Panthers Playbook. Wherever you go, whatever you do, with the power and technology of a Ford F-150 on your team, it's game on. See your Carolina Ford dealer today. You all deserve this. You folks that watch this stuff and leave comments, you all deserve this win. You deserve this win.
Listen, enjoy your Krispy Kreme donuts, okay?
Yep.
Also,
put some Texas Pete on there.
Put some Texas Pete on your Krispy Kreme
Drink
donut.
Bojangles tweet tea.
Listen,
whatever you got to do.
You know what I'm saying? Go online, find an old Billy Graham sermon and all that good stuff. Like, let's just go full North Carolina with it. You know, but here's the thing to think about. Andy Dalton playing this well, going against his former team, the guy that they literally pushed him out for, Joe Burrow, is coming to town.
That's right.
That's going to be a good matchup, man.
Oh, looking forward to that. And we'll have another episode for you all on Thursday. Y'all be good.
Keep
pounding.